back to the East Health TV. This video was created from an article on our health website. I'll drop the link to the article in the description box. After watching, please ensure you like, comment, share, and subscribe. And please do come back for more.
Okay, let's dive right into this explainer. Today, we're demystifying a condition that affects millions of people worldwide. We're going to break down exactly what Alzheimer's disease is, what's literally happening inside the brain, and most importantly, how we can face it head-on.
So let's clear up a really common misconception right off the bat. Look, we all have memory blips, right? Forgetting where you left your glasses from time to time? Hey, that's just normal aging. But early Alzheimer's, it's entirely different. It's not forgetting where the glasses are. It's forgetting what those glasses are actually used for.
You see, Alzheimer's isn't just your standard run-of-the-mill memory issue. It is a severe progressive brain disorder. And as the data clearly shows, it is the absolute heavyweight when it comes to cognitive decline. We're talking about it accounting for a massive 60 to 80% of all dementia cases globally. That's huge. In the societal impact, well, it's absolutely staggering. Just to put this into perspective, by the year 2025, the projected costs for healthcare, long-term care, and hospice for dementia in the U.S. alone are estimated to hit $384 billion. Yeah, billion with a B. So this isn't just an individual or family tragedy. It's a massive, systemic challenge for all of us. All right, let's move right into Section 1, Causes and Key Risk Factors. Let's look at the biology. Alzheimer's is largely driven by two major biological intruders in your brain. The first culprits are amyloid plaques. You can think of these as sticky, gross masses of protein fragments that just build up in the spaces between your nerve cells. They act like literal roadblocks, physically disrupting the internal communication network that your brain absolutely relies on to function. Now, working right alongside those external plaques are what we call tau tangles. So while amyloid blocks the outside of the cell, tau is destroying it from the inside. Tau is actually a protein that normally holds nerve cells together, but in Alzheimer's, it twists into these abnormal destructive tangles. This totally ruins the cell structure, leading directly to cell death and causing the brain to literally shrink over time. Okay, so who is actually most at risk here? Well, there are certain things we just can't change, our non-modifiable risk factors. Age is the biggest one. Your risk basically doubles roughly every 5 years after you hit 65. Then there's genetics, specifically carrying something called the APOE4 gene. And surprisingly, gender plays a massive role too. Almost 2/3 of American patients with Alzheimer's are women. But here's the good news. This is where you actually have some power. Modifying certain lifestyle factors is a surprisingly potent way to protect your brain health. Things like high blood pressure, physical inactivity, chronic social isolation, and even untreated hearing loss or poor sleep health, addressing these can significantly lower your risk. It's a really powerful reminder that your brain health is an active, lifelong pursuit. Now, it's also absolutely vital to point out that these modifiable risks, especially when combined with long-standing healthcare inequalities, do not affect everyone equally. The data shows us that older Black Americans are twice as likely, and Hispanic Americans 1.5 times as likely to develop Alzheimer's compared to older white Americans. It's a stark disparity driven by unequal burdens of risk factors and living conditions. Moving on to Section 2, the 5 stages of progression. So how does this actually play out? Well, the disease typically unfolds over roughly 3 to 11 years after a diagnosis. It starts in the preclinical stage. This is where the biological changes are happening in the background, but there are absolutely no visible symptoms yet. Then it slowly creeps into mild cognitive impairment, where you start seeing subtle memory lapses. By the time it reaches moderate and severe dementia, those gaps have worsened into deep confusion, major personality changes, and eventually a total loss of mobility and the ability to even swallow, which requires round-the-clock care. Let's look at Section 3, Diagnosis and Modern Treatments. Now, mapping out that progression definitely sounds terrifying, I know, but early diagnosis is absolutely your best tool here. And the good news is, doctors today don't just guess. They use a highly sophisticated toolkit to confidently identify the disease. They're combining cognitive testing, high-tech brain imaging like MRIs and PET scans to literally look for that amyloid buildup, along with advanced biomarker testing to detect specific proteins right in your blood or spinal fluid.
So what happens after diagnosis? Well, for decades, our primary weapons have been medications that just manage the symptoms. Drugs like cholinesterase inhibitors and memantine work by regulating specific neurotransmitters in the brain. Don't get me wrong, they are incredibly helpful for temporarily improving memory, learning, and daily functioning, but the catch is, they don't stop the underlying disease from marching forward.
But here's what is genuinely exciting, like a massive breakthrough in the science. We now have newer, FDA-approved, disease-modifying treatments, medications like lecanemab and donanemab. These don't just mask the symptoms, they actively attack those biological amyloid plaques in early-stage patients to actually slow down the cognitive decline. This right here is exactly why stepping forward for an early diagnosis matters more today than it ever has before.
Finally, Section 4. Supporting patients and caregivers. Because beyond the medicine, managing Alzheimer's is deeply human, and it requires proactive planning. Taking legal and medical steps early is absolutely crucial. We're talking about setting up a durable power of attorney for finances, designating a healthcare proxy, creating an advance directive, and getting your emergency guidance forms completely in order. Doing all of this early on, while the patient can still fully participate, significantly reduces the crushing stress on families later down the line. And hey, if you are a caregiver, please know that you are doing an incredibly tough job. But implementing a few key strategies can really turn an overwhelming situation into a structured, manageable environment. Speak in a low, clear voice. Ask really simple yes or no questions. And here's a big one. Never argue with their confusion. Step into their reality instead. Keep a regular schedule, and above all, try to be tolerant of the repetition. Remember, it's the biology at work, not the person.
We're going to leave you with this final thought. Alzheimer's takes a lot. It steals your memories, your identity, and your relations to the world. But you still have agency here. Stepping forward for an early diagnosis empowers you to reclaim the right treatment, proper planning, and vital peace of mind. So, knowing what we've covered in this explainer today, what proactive step will you take this week to protect your brain health for the years to come?
Please subscribe.